directors in Cannes fighting for the big prize, the Palme d'Or, while others are fighting for the right just to be at the festival. Two directors will miss their red carpet premieres in competition this year. Russia's Kirill Serebrennikov is under house arrest, and Iran's Jafar Panahi is banned from making films and from leaving his home country. Three Faces is his fourth film in defiance of the ban.
He wasn't here, it's true. But once we got in the theatre with the audience, there was so much empathy around us. I had this feeling that I was speaking the same language as everyone else. We didn't have a common language, but I felt like I was in the international world of cinema, where everyone speaks the same language, the language of cinema. And I think our sadness was relieved a little when we saw how much empathy there was and the interest people were taking in our film.
آقای پناهی تو رو خدا ببخشید. اصلا من اشتباه کردم گفتم قسم بخورین تو رو خدا ببخشید دیگه. مگه من چی گفتم آقای پناهی حرف بدی نزدم که. تو رو خدا آقای پناهی.
Next to an exquisite film competing for the big prize, the Palme d'Or, from Oscar-winning Polish director Paweł Pawlikowski. Cold War is inspired by the stormy love story of the director's own parents. Earlier in the festival, I went to meet him. Paweł, congratulations on the film. It's a beautiful story, Cold War. And tell us about your decision to make this film in black and white.
I actually originally thought it might be better to do it in color, especially after Ida, which was so black and white, and everyone just kept going on about how black and white it was. But in Poland in the late 40s, 50s was pretty grey, so any kind of color would be kind of an arbitrary choice, you know. So then we kind of treated black and white as a color, you know, and I think at the end of the film you don't quite remember that it was in black and white. At least
no, you're right, you don't.
You
totally forget. You dedicated Cold War to your parents.
Mm-hmm.
The main characters share the same first names as your mother and father. How personal is this film?
I did that. I don't know whether personal is the right word, but it's definitely inspired by this couple who's the first love couple I've met, my parents, and who had a very tempestuous life involving divorces, reunions, changes, until they were too weak and old to struggle, and then they just were loving each other full time.
It's a real musical journey. Tell us about your inspiration for all that music.
I like the idea of starting with source music, like really folk, very basic roots music from certain regions of Poland, and then to see that transformed into this slightly kitschy but beautiful folk ensemble music, and then to use the same tunes in a different way, in a jazz context. The music and its evolution kind of reflects the relationship between the heroes.
One, two, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, rock. 5, 6, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, rock.
I'm going to ask you now, why did you pick this period, the late 40s, the early 50s, the Cold War in Poland?
I left Poland in 71, and the Poland I left was kind of shaped by that time, by this Stalinist period and the Gomulka period. And also it was the political tension, terror, which I don't spell out too much, but it's there. It did put human relations in an interesting context.
Much of the film is set in Paris, as was one of your other films, The Woman in the Fifth. You lived in Paris for a while. Tell us how this city inspires you.
I'd say it does the opposite. I feel kind of suffocated in Paris, and I chose Paris as the place of exile, which is really because it's a kind of good place to break up a relationship.
Well, you didn't stay in Paris. You've ended up back in Poland. And something happened to your filmmaking when you went back to Poland. You made Ida, which won an Oscar.
Nazywa się Wanda Gruz. To jest jedyna siostry krewna. Powinna ją siostra poznać, zanim złoży śluby.
Can you explain what happened?
I went to Poland to make a film mainly, because I thought, okay, after my Paris experience with The Woman in the Fifth, which was it's an interesting film and I love it, but it doesn't quite work. So it's a kind of hybrid, cultural hybrid and generic hybrid. Poland was a kind of return to myself in a way, to stuff from the past. And also Poland just gives me a lot of good story ideas, some personal, some not personal. It's a very interesting country with very rich texture and a lot of baggage.
So where do you keep your Oscar?
Oh God, on some shelf, on a shelf with other bits of clutter.
There's been a great reaction to Cold War here. Do you think maybe you might be going home with the Palme d'Or? How do you feel about that?
It would be very nice, but but I have no great expectations. There are very good films here as well. I won't be upset.
Thank you. Thank you.